Hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics, and I'm here to review the new DC Warner Brothers cartoon film, Vixen, which is basically they took s- seasons of the show that were very short episodes and they combined it into a movie and added a few more minutes to help explain the plot of this character. Now, if you don't know Vixen in this movie and in the comics was this uh, African girl that was raised in America by a white family, and she's keeps this amulet, and this amulet comes from her African fictional country that has a lot of cultural ties, mysticism, and magical elements that affect nature and humanity together. And she uses this to whoop ass as a superhero. She has the amulet that can give her the qualities of different animals. She doesn't physically turn into one. She kind of has like spirit behind her that's purple, or like a shadow next to her that symbolizes what animal she's turning into, and she's able to punch people, run really fast, climb, whatever she needs to do. And they actually do some creative usage of the idea in this movie. Now, overall, I would say this movie is just decent. It's nowhere. I can never say this is great. It's kind of good, but it's never. I never like thought it was horrible at any point. There were parts that I'm just like, I wish that wasn't in there. I wish they could have retooled that. A big problem with this movie is just it needs more time to be fleshed out. The movie's only like hour and 12 minutes, hour and 10 minutes, and I'm just thinking there's a lot of small plot points that are just brushed aside, and it doesn't flow very well. Like, for instance, um, Vixen, the title character, she is kidnapped by her sort of evil sister who grew up in that uh, fictional country in Africa, and she kind of wants revenge against her sister. She has the amulet, and she wants the amulet necklace that she wears and gives you powers. Um, she was kidnapped from a professor's office, and this professor she's friends with. And when she comes back home, she starts becoming a superhero. She says, she wants to have a long meeting with the professor guy. And, the woman that was already there said, well, he won't be back for a year because he's in that country that you were just at. And she's like, oh, I guess I'll wait. And the meeting is never brought up again. And it just kind of goes nowhere. He just serves the point of explaining how to fix the problem with the MacGuffin, which is there's more amulets that we find out. Ones that give you like power of, the elementals, like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, air, fire, water, all that. Um, I think one of the good things about this is you have a female superhero, their own movie, and you have a black female superhero that is not Catwoman. Try to forget about that movie, but it's god fucking terrible. Um, I mean, a lot of people of color, such as myself, we like to see uh, characters that look more like us while we're reading. We don't like them necessarily just because they are our color or our gender, but it kind of helps to see that we can relate to their struggle, or we can see a bit of us in them, just kind of as like a what we want to be or what we could aspire to be. It helps, bridge that connection. Like a lot of black people in America, they love the character Black Panther. Once they find out, especially with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, laying information down for a lot of people to understand. They know he's a king. They know he's wealthy, he's very intelligent, he doesn't take any shit, and he's just a badass fighter. And they're like, and he's black, and he's not like overly stereotyped as being buffoonerish. That's fucking amazing. And he's the first like costumed superhero. That's amazing. And his name, harkens back to well, not only the Black Panther Party, it's actually based off another smaller Black Panther organization for black people to come together. I can't remember what state it was from, but I think it started at the college. But yeah, back to the movie. So she has foster parents. Her foster father or stepdad, he's a pretty cool guy. He doesn't really get to do much. He has some funny lines, at least. The foster mother says like just a few lines, and we see her in like a flashback, and she's never mentioned again. We don't know if she left or she's dead. We don't know what the hell happened. I think that would have been a really good plot point to, well, not necessarily plot point, but something to help give the character more weight. Like, there's only, there are three real characters. Like, there's placeholders of, kind of bouncing off with dialogue and people that perform the actions of the plot to continue, but the ones that we actually get a feel of like more dimension are Vixen, the dad, I guess, and the somewhat evil sister. The villain is he's just a bad guy. There's not much I can say other than that. I guess he's intimidating, I guess. I didn't find this out until reading about it after I watched the movie, that this is supposed to be connected to the Flash Arrow CW universe. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because this show, I know, it is canon or kind of canon to those series and Legends of Tomorrow, but yeah, this show just assumes that you watch those shows. I've only seen like 3 or 4 episodes of Arrow, and I'm just like, I don't understand like the arc of these other characters I'm seeing. I mean, I know some things from them from the comics, but them as personifications that we see on the small screen, I'm like, yeah, because Green Arrow in the television show, I know, is very different from the very classic comic version. But yeah, I think the weakest thing about this movie is there's a lot of corny, bad dialogue. There's a lot. And one line Vixen says to like I think a mugger, and it just made me think so much about that terrible electrocuting frogs line from X-Men 1 from Halle Berry as Storm. I'm just like, that's bad. That's real bad. Not to say there aren't jokes that work, not just from the father who has a lot of good lines. Vixen as a character, there are some things that they just kind of drop completely. Like, they bring up she wants to do fashion, drop that completely. It's never brought up again. They have this scientist / zookeeper lady. She could have been interesting, but we don't see her again. She's just in the movie for like maybe 6 minutes, and poof, never seen again. But yeah, it's always good to have different representation, and there's been a lot of backlash towards people of color and women in these type of roles, and I'm just like, it's not like they're removing what was already there. This is a black female character. She's always been like this, and to take that away from her is to take away part of her identity. That's a big part of her character. So I'm very happy that even though there's a lot of completely fictitious uh, type cultural element introduced with Africa, it does steep into some of Western African mythologies and some cultural problems with you know localized terrorism to these tribal groups, and I'm like, oh, you know, you got some cool, interesting stuff here. Uh, but yeah, so sometimes the forcing of putting it into the Arrow Flash universe, it doesn't feel natural. Uh, I think I could just been fine with Flash and Arrow appearing. I didn't need to see Black Canary and uh, I think it was Adam, uh, Weather Wizard. Yeah, he didn't need to be in this movie. They could have given another reason why she failed. He fucked up Detroit, and Detroit's already fucked up because you know she's fighting crime in like the rich white neighborhoods. She's not in the ghetto areas where all the dogs are, but she's still taking down muggers and. Uh, but yeah, he like makes tornadoes and I think a tsunami at one point, and we don't figure out what happens to him. He just like, oh, he destroyed the city, and she's knocked out, and I guess the heroes deal with her, and yeah, not mentioned again. Just like what, this, just so weird. But uh, overall, there are points that I really did enjoy. Um, but one of the big problems is I didn't wasn't fully immersed. I think part of it was because a lot of the animation is stiff. Now, the best fight, in my opinion, by far is, I think it's the second or third one, where they're in Africa and you see the sister and Vixen fighting. That was very fluid. It was very reminiscent of animation you would see in Afro Samurai or Durara. It was just very cool. It had a sleek wispiness that you would see in like action anime. But overall, I think I would give this movie C plus. It's perfectly decent. Just was a lot of parts I didn't feel invested, and I felt like I was thinking too much about like little issues with the dialogue, and that's what really caught me out. If they had really great dialogue and a smoother plot, then this would have been B or B plus. But because it just takes me out of the movie. I forget. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be finishing this, and that the last fight and how they finished the MacGuffin it was just bland. But see it, don't see it. It just came out, I think, on Blu-ray. I mean, it's see it or you don't see it. You're not gonna lose any sleep. As part of the Critics. We love you.